Speaking of Kim D, last week, it seems like there was no Kim D, like Kim D was nowhere to be found. Like usually on Saturdays, there's an update on YouTube and there's like little clips of David and Kim D talking about the Real Housewives of New Jersey, sometimes the Real Housewives of New York, and it seems like last week Kim D was MIA. So, someone on Instagram, well, if you go under Kim D's profile, Kim D promotes her own fashion show. She has a fashion show coming up sometime in October. I think it's a week before Halloween. And she was promoting it and saying, like, this is going to cost this much. It's a 4-course meal, yada, yada, yada. So then there was a person under her comment section that said, "Oh, Kim, where have you been? I missed you last week. I always look forward to listening to your take on Behind the Velvet Rope." To which Kim D responded, "Oh, me and David have parted ways. So me and David are no longer, like, they're not no longer doing the podcast together." But Kim also proceeded to say that her and David were still friends. So, and she has kind of like responded to a few people under that thread and reiterated the same thing. She said that her and David have parted ways. So I was wondering, I was like, oh, so is that an official thing? Because I have not heard like any official statement from herself or David saying we are parting ways, we're no longer together. And if she has done that, my apologies. I have not like seen it. I haven't heard it. So it seems like it's confirmed that they are parting ways at this point. And obviously there's a lot of people speculating as to why they are parting ways. I don't know for myself exactly why they are, but here's the thing. I cannot say that I did not see it coming. Like over the past few months, I would say that I felt like the energy between the two was a little bit different. And I'm not like trying to say that there's something going on between the two of them. It's just like my own perception from watching them on the show together, like, on YouTube, it seemed like they had a lot of chemistry at the beginning, and towards the end, it seemed like Kim wanted to go in one direction and maybe David wanted to go in a different one, especially after, because at first they seemed to kind of share the same type of opinion when it came to Louis and Teresa and all of that. And then eventually it seemed like David was becoming more soft towards Louis, or softening towards Louis, especially after the Bodito interview. So I don't know if that aligns with what Kim D believes when it comes to David Huelas, but I can only assume that maybe it plays a part, right? Or maybe it was just time for them to part ways. So another thing that I wanted to say to you guys is that Teresa is now following Kim D on Instagram, and Kim D is also following Teresa on Instagram, which I believe is new because, Teresa and Kim D, ever since Kim D has left the show, they have been pretty much on bad terms, right? And so I'm just assuming that this is like a new thing. I cannot say that I did not see that coming as well, just based on the fact that Teresa has reunited with Jacqueline, and obviously Jacqueline is probably trying to make things happen, like have Teresa and Kim D make amends, right? And I think Jacqueline had alluded to that at some point in time. I can't remember on which podcast, because at some point she was doing, a whole bunch of tours and like talking about the Gorgas and this and that and the other. And during one of her interviews, she said that she was basically working behind the scenes to have Teresa and Kim D mend their relationship, right? So I wouldn't be surprised that that's the reason why they are kind of like warming up to each other. Here's the thing. I feel like Kim D, when she was friends with Teresa, I felt like it was genuine. I felt like Kim D really cared for Teresa at the time that she was friends with her. And I think it was it may have been genuine for Teresa at first too. But then when they had the falling out, after Kim D said or made the comment about Joe Giudice not being faithful, Teresa basically kind of just dropped Kim D, I'm sorry, and that was the end of their friendship. So ever since that happened, Teresa and Kim D have said very horrible things about each other. Kim D obviously had the podcast with David, and she said a lot of things about Teresa and a lot of things about Louis. And even Teresa said a lot of bad things about Kim D to Andy. Not necessarily to the press, but she did say she called Kim D a sewer rat, right? And she said she didn't really care about her. The last season that we saw Kim on the panel at the reunion, Teresa basically ripped her a new you-know-what and called her dried up, called her a madam, called her horrible names. Melissa got into it too, but Melissa was respectful, at least. She did say to Kim D, I'm not going to scream at you. Let's be, classy. Let me talk. I'm not going to insult you. Don't insult me, but I just need to get it out. That's what Melissa did, right? So anyways, so at this point, I have to be honest. I don't know if they are actually actively working towards a friendship like Kim D and Teresa, but this is what I'm going to say. If I were Kim D, I would tread lightly when it comes to that situation. The reason why is because the timing of it all, right? It's the timing. It's like for the longest time, she didn't want to, have a friendship or a relationship with Kim D. And now that things did not turn out the way that Teresa was expecting, she was expecting for Melissa not to return next season. I can only assume that Teresa is just looking for allies just so she could take Melissa down. Because you guys know, it is no secret, Kim D does not seem to like Melissa Gorga or Joe Gorga. Every week on Behind the Velvet Rope, she was basically saying that she doesn't like them, right? She even has a nickname for Melissa. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised that Teresa is maybe open to the idea of befriending Kim D once again, just so Kim D can do her dirty work, right? And that's just my opinion, guys, and I'm just speculating here based on history. We've seen Teresa do this again. She's done it with Danielle, and then she tossed her to the side when Danielle was not serving her anymore, right? So if I was Kim D, I would tread lightly. And I would just see what Teresa's intentions are. Is it really like, do you really regret what you did to me? And are you really looking to kind of better yourself and become my friend? Or are you trying to become my friend so I can join you in your fight against Melissa, right? And truly, to be honest, guys, I would love to see Kim D and Melissa make up. Because to me, I don't even know why they even fell out in the first place. We saw when Melissa joined the show back in season 3, they went and had this little Halloween party. Melissa was dressed as Catwoman and Kim D was, I can't remember what her costume was, but her and Kim G went to Melissa's house and with Kathy, and they all went to a club after and had a fun time. So I never really understood what happened between Melissa and Kim. I think Kim kind of explained it to Andy at some point in time and said that Melissa was promoting some sort of business that had a similar name, and then that pissed Kim off, and then she kind of wanted revenge. I don't know if that's the real reason, but what I can say is that this is something that you could definitely get over if that's the extent of the fight, right? And at some point in time, we saw pictures online between Melissa, Joe, David, like at a club. I don't know if it was a club, but some sort of event, and they were all hugging and taking a picture together. So it seems like that they had turned a corner. And even I think, was it on which podcast? I think it was on Heather McDonald's podcast at some point in time. Kim D was invited, and Heather asked Kim, what's your relationship with the Gorgas? And then Kim said, you know what? We kind of had a little bit of a history. I'm paraphrasing here, guys. But she said we had a little bit of a history, But, you know, they made it right by me. Like, we're good now. We're good. So I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I would almost trust that more at this point, because Melissa has never truly said anything that bad about Kim D. If one thing, she's always been pretty much respectful. So for me, I think that Kim should tread lightly. And, you know, if she's open to reconciling with Teresa, I don't see why she wouldn't be open to reconciling with Melissa. That's just my take on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay? Bye.